Greetings, YouTube. Just this week, I found myself in a conversation on a thread over on RPGNet concerning the comparison of old school games, the retro clones and just ones that are kind of in that genre, and modern rules, modern games. And some interesting points came out. Now, when I'm talking about the difference here, I'm talking about the difference between this old school and this modern game. And it seems to be there's very much two different crowds here, two different groups. There are people that really like the old school games, and there are people that really like the new modern games, and there doesn't seem to be a lot of overlap. Now, I am in the modern game camp. I lived through the old school era the first time, and I frankly don't see a need to return to it. It was something that we played because we didn't have any other option, and I don't see any reason to return to that era because I feel that the modern games are simply better. Now, one of the things that came out of this conversation was that in the simpler rules, as represented by this here, because the rules aren't as detailed, aren't as complex, the assumption seems to be that anything that isn't in this book is allowed. So if anything that isn't specifically mentioned, good to go. And that anything in a game like this, if it isn't in the book, isn't allowed. That one is a permissive and the other is a restrictive manner of looking at game rules to emulate a world. Now, I thought this was a very interesting comment. I don't remember who said it over there on the message boards, but I thank them. Because I don't really agree. For me, it's the difference between a game that does what I want it to do and a game that doesn't do what I want it to do. For me, old school means incomplete. It means things are missing. It means that when I stumble upon something during a session that isn't in the book, I'm going to have to stop my game and adjudicate that thing on the spot. And if I don't write it down, the next time I encounter that problem, I may make a different call. So you're going to have inconsistency within your own game. In addition, everyone that plays this game, from every single campaign, all over the town, all over the country, all over the world, could be adjudicating the same issues different ways. So you're going to have complete and utter inconsistency from place to place. That you are doomed to essentially have 1,000 different role-playing games, all loosely based on the same set of rules. For me, I want a turnkey game. I want to go book, shwunk, and off. If it isn't in the book, I understand I'm going to have to stop and make the judgment, which is why I want the rules to cover as many things as possible. No rule system is going to be perfect. No rule system is going to cover everything. I understand this. I'm comfortable with that fact. But the more things it covers, the more comfortable I am. I liken it to a boat. Now, this boat has got 4 or 5 holes in it. Yeah, I know they're there. The boat's not perfect. But with only 4 or 5 holes, I can slap a patch on it as I need to, and I still get to go where I want to go. Whereas I see this boat as having 40 or 50 holes. I don't want to take that boat in the water. That boat is going to take too much of my time and effort to maintain its existence to get me anywhere. And that's the problem for me. I want the game to help me get to my destination, which is fun. And for me, having to adjudicate rules over and over again, or coming up with new rules all the time because the game does not have them, is not fun. So I want a game that is more complex. So yeah, there's a difference here. There's a big difference. Pathfinder's twice as thick as the other one. Alright, and not to mention I think the pages are thinner, so it's even 2.5 times thicker. It's got a lot more rules. I understand that. And this book doesn't even have the monsters in it, whereas this one has everything you need to play. I see the attraction. I get it. But I would rather have to invest in this core book plus a monster manual, which I've done. I own the Pathfinder Bestiary. I've never reviewed it because it's a bunch of monsters that everybody's seen who's played D&D, so I didn't really think it needed it. But I would rather that investment of, I think, a total of $70, I think. And this one, I only had $1 in it. But I'm never going to play this game. Ever. It's in my collection because I like the nostalgia, because I can't say I'm a completionist, but I respect the older era games. I just don't think that we need to play them. I've read a lot of them. C&C, Castles of Crusades, Labyrinth Lords, Mutant Future, Sword and Wizardry, Dark Dungeons. All of them have fallen short for me because all of them harken back to a set of rules, a type of rules that I have no interest in. The only retro clone, or actually it was an old school version, it's not a retro clone, that I thought was cool was Maces and Minotaurs. Because for me, it was fresh. It's based on the Greek mythology, and it takes a style of play that I actually think, personally, is well reflected by the game Everstone, Blood Legacy. And the Big Eye Small Monster D20 rules, the anime SRD. So I think the connection for me is to a set of 3.5 rules that I like, and it just happens to be done in an old school style. Now, I know that there are people going to disagree with me, and that's okay. I accept that. But the old school style, the retro clone style, just isn't for me. I like the modern rules. Now, if I want to play something that's rules light, we've got Fudge, and I've used similar mechanics before, you know, or something that's simpler but still full-bodied, Savage Worlds. But for example, I'm not interested in Hero, the only version I own at the moment. Well, I own the first one, but the latest one I own is 5th edition, and I'm never going to play that because I think it's too complex. And BRP, I think, might even be more complex than I want. I like the Pathfinder 3.5. That's the sweet spot for me. It's one I'm comfortable with. Though I admit the BRP percentiles based system is kind of tasty. I admit that, but they're I don't know. It just doesn't click for me. This is the rule set that I like, and I don't really like the other one. I understand where people come from. I understand why they like it. I respect their desire to play it. But there's a little bit of chauvinism involved that I've encountered. That it's almost like if you're an old school gamer like me, and I'm an old school gamer simply by virtue of the fact that I'm old, and you don't like the retro clones, you don't like the old school games, that you are somehow less of a gamer. That somehow you failed to live up to the era. Like you're not carrying the banner. You're not saying, I was there, I fought in those wars. Well, I was there, I fought in those wars. I earned the medals, and I have the right to say, yep, they're nice, and throw them away if I choose. How I handle my own nostalgia, how I deal with my own past is up to me. And that I have embraced a newer set of rules that make me more comfortable and more happy, that fit my needs better. I shouldn't be called on that one, folks. You know, there's room for everybody out there. We should be able to all get along. Even the 4th edition players. So, if you like the old school retro clone stuff, have at it, folks. Enjoy yourself. I read a blog, Grognardia, which is all about that, because the nostalgia, because I loved that genre in many ways. They talk about the older games that I played when they were new. But I'm not gonna probably be picking up any more games like this. There's a new old school post-apocalyptic game coming out. Savages, no, something in sorcery or something. I can't remember what it's called. But it's kind of Gamma World-esque, first edition kind of thing. But there is the Warlords of the Apocalypse, which is coming out in November or December for the Pathfinder game. And I am going to be all over that. A post-apocalyptic game based on the Pathfinder rules? It's going to be the best Yule gift I could possibly ask for. I'm just hoping my wife has a job by that time so I can afford to buy a copy. So, thanks for listening. I hope I haven't pissed anybody off. I still read the games. I still love the games. I still have fond memories of the games. But I like Pathfinder more than I like the Rules Encyclopedia.